Congratulations to all those who are winning crystals, and make sure that you're standing by all weekend and tuning in, because we're going to be revealing more winners of the crystals throughout this weekend and the rest of the Paladins World Championship. Still Aggro here on the desk with you, now joined by Kresnik for our second quarterfinal matchup of the day here in North America. And Krez, I mean, if the first quarterfinal is any indicator, we should probably buckle in for a great one between Sanguine and Snappin'.
Yeah, I'm glad we started at 11, because we might be here for quite a while if it's going to keep it at this pace. If the 1v4 is this close, then this could just go forever, honestly. Snappin' and Sanguine, even though their last matchup was a little one-sided towards Snappin', I mean, clearly everybody's willing to show up today.
I mean, Snappin' is a team that I was told to really watch out for, because they're the ones who beat Pickled Pepper during Phase 2. Well, now Yeezy PogChamp has thrown their hat in that same ring. But Snappin' is a team that a lot of people have been pretty high on, but Sanguine has a lot of pretty recognizable names in Paladins' competitive past.
Yeah, for sure, having some of the pickups that they've had on their team. I think previously Evil Eye on shifted out for them. Sanguine having picked up Hero, which had, he's played in PPL before. He's one of the few that has kind of remained to continue to play in the PPC, but Snappin' with some players that you recognize from, honestly, casuals and ranked that have been grinding forever that have made it to this point. I know Bones was someone who has been competing for a while and then has finally kind of found a team that really thrives around him. Woodknock was someone who never really competed and just kind of blew everyone out of the water when he started competing. Could be, I think, is an argument for the best tank in North America, just seeing the way that he competes with his team. Snappin', they just all found players that worked well with each other, and it's been clicking and helping to move forward from there.
Yeah, I was going to say, the Snappin' roster, I mean, I recognize Hero for Sanguine, Gogurt, of course. I mean, there are a lot of names over on that side, but Snappin' is a team of these guys that if you aren't paying attention to what's happening each week of the PPC, maybe you miss out on some of Phase 2, you might not recognize some of these names, but clearly make it a name for themselves with how well they've played in Phase 2.
And being the only team to take down Pickled Pepper during the regular season, I think is a huge part of it. Figuring out how to deal with them when they were looking dominant, obviously, now after that last game notwithstanding, but they were able to take them down when it didn't look like anyone else could. Just getting a lot of players who grind the game, who were hungry for this win, getting Penguin, taking him from Yeezy PogChamp, where he was playing with earlier in the season, to replace Evil Eye, who was having some inconsistent performances. But I remember I pugged with a lot of these guys in some games earlier. They wanted to grind the game. They wanted to constantly get better, and it shows every single week when they pull out some new strats, and they kind of flex the game around how they like to play.
A team that you have to watch out for, not just in what they're going to be able to perform on, but how they're going to do it. It's a fun team to watch for sure. And Sanguine, with that in mind, might have a little bit of trouble in this upcoming drafting phase just because of how flexible the Snappin' team can be. But Sanguine, not a team that you can just overlook, despite not having the best of performances against Snappin'. Last time they played, I feel like this team isn't one that you can just count out.
Oh, no, for sure, especially considering how they show up when the chips are on the table, when they've had their victory at MSI before, even though the roster is a little bit different. Now, I'd like to think it made them a little more flexible. I mean, they picked up Hero, who was performing. He was one of the shining members, I think, on Project before he left their team, and they picked up Quick, who kind of went on a big hiatus, but came back to be, I'd say, a flexible off-tank who teams have kind of had to focus on in the bans, and then maintaining Gogurt. So they kind of keep their flexibility with having a controller DPS and a keyboard DPS. They're just so hard to predict, I think, in the drafting phase.
And that's going to be something that, just like Snappin' will do to Sanguine, Sanguine will do to Snappin'. I feel like we're going to have some pretty interesting drafts to break down here in this one.
For sure.
So we take a look at what maps have been banned: Fish Market, Ascension Peak, Shattered Desert, and Frog Isle. 3 maps that we saw in the last matchup, actually, in the quarterfinals. And Stone Keep was banned. We'll get our first chance here to look at it at the Paladins World Championship with map number 1.
And a lot of wide maps get banned, so a lot of kind of backline-heavy sniper maps are the ones that got taken out. Fish Market, Frog Isle, any map where they can kind of play their distance are going to be gone. So neither team really wants to play that style. So that says to me we're going to end up on maps that they're comfortable on. They want to be close. They want to brawl with each other, and that'll be a priority here, I'm sure. But Stone Keep, I think verticality can be important if you can kind of equalize that low to high ground. And having a blaster is important too, I think, for some of these areas of the map. You can get that Bomb King and play inside of that keep and make it hard for them to actually go in and contest you.
Already very different bands from what we saw in the first quarterfinal. Strix Androxus and then Torvald Makoa. That leaves Io open, Genos open. Those two were heavily prioritized. And the Sky that was so heavily prioritized towards the back end. Do you expect that to just be the first matchup, that it just seemed like those two teams were really hell-bent on getting Sky in, specifically for Easy PogChamp, of course? Or do you think we could see Sky kind of spread out and go towards teams like these as well?
We've seen Sky picked up by these teams before, but it's definitely more of like a specific strategy pocket pick, whereas Pickled Pepper and Yeezy, they're more willing to kind of force it into different places. Just looking at this right now, it would actually be a good direction for Sanguine to go. I think she pairs really well with Terminus. Having Genos, having the Sky 2 means you have kind of supplemental heals, so you're not as worried about just that kind of slow heal over time. Plus, Poison, great into ROM, so maybe that's where they go later, but for now, you got to prioritize your healer and your point tank, I think, too, that are good into that first picked ROM. And Snappin have to pick things that also deal with that ROM well, so they don't have to play into it. Cassie, so they don't have the big game in con, so they don't have to deal with that CC either.
Fernando is going to be the pick here for Sanguine. A different look here. Didn't see any Fernando in set number 1. Surprised to see it here?
Yeah, I would say so, especially because they have a Terminus already. That's more what I'm kind of confused about, because it might be Scorch Fernando. I've seen some of the amateur teams picking it up recently and seeing good success with it, so maybe Sanguine are feeling the same way. They put Nando inside keep. You have a great lineup for the Fireball, get a lot of kind of chained up damage there. Plus, that's another shield to go in front of Rom to not give him any soul fragments. He won't be able to get that armor. He won't be able to heal himself as much if he's shooting at a Term and a Nando all game.
Not going to have a whole lot of flesh to hit, basically, with this composition so far for Sanguine, as Corvus is going to be their supportive choice, and you were mentioning blasters. Okay. Drogoz is the call. You're a little surprised by that one. The Drogoz-Fernando matchup's one that goes way, way back in Paladins.
Yeah, with the ults being able to kind of counter each other out, but I was just surprised to see Drogue picked up with a counter pick still open, but now look at the top of that draft, right? Were they planning from this from the start? You ban Strix, you ban Andro. Those are two of the characters that'll deal with this Drogoz the best, but they end up with their own counter pick at the end. Maeve can deal with it, but it's not as easy as the Andro matchup. You target Poison early, and now you're still going to have to deal with Poison. We're going to see some Dragon Ball Z-style fights in the sky, I'm sure, between these two trading blows, and whoever wins will give their team a massive advantage as the point fight goes on.
Yeah, you mentioned verticality being important early on. I don't know if you realize it would be this level of importance between Drogoz and the Maeve. Which draft do you like more here in Game 1, Krez?
I actually like the tank composition on Sanguine a little bit more, but if that Drogoz goes uncontested, I don't know if Snappin can lose it with Penguin on the Drogue.
Drogo is going to be the focal point here for Snappin in game number 1. The second quarterfinal has a lot to match if they want to try and match how hyped the first one is. Let's see if they can do it.
Thank you on the desk there, Aggro. I am here on the cast with Gore. And we are moving into Stone Keep. We're moving into, as he said, quarterfinal 2, and I thought this would be the close one. But Gore and Pickled Pepper have already fallen down, and now who will be dropping down to join them? I'm sure they didn't expect to meet that squad. And here, we'll get to see if this Drogoz can be the difference maker. Stone Keep is a map where all that AoE Gore really can thrive if he can live.
And that's the huge qualifier, right? If he can live. There is still a Vivian on the other side that can deal with him pretty well. And even though you can discount the damage, Baller Steve is technically going to be on someone who has hit scan damage, so someone else that could try to take him out of the air. But look at how much damage it's doing. The same reason you love your Bomb Kings, your Willows on this map, Drogoz fits in as well. And it's just so much more niche to pull out, but they're making it look good so far.
But somehow they keep everyone alive, and it's Woodknock who drops first. First blood drawn by Sanguine on the opposite side. Now, can Sanguine hold on to this small advantage they've grabbed? Is Penguin already forced to fall a bit back and trying to contest the mid from the high ground? But things are not going well. Reincarnate in the back dies. The poor Rom has already dropped down. Now Sanguine with pretty good mid control, though this Drogoz pressure, it seems, has pushed them back.
I mean, all of that shielding that they have in the Fernando, the ability to absorb damage from Terminus plus Vivian with her own shield, it's just so difficult to get into damage that sticks. And finally, you start getting some percentage on the point here if you're snapping, but you have to run right into the same death ball that Sanguine were running. They control keep right now, and while it might not have the midpoint pressure, they don't really have anything going against them either. Sanguine, I think, are in a good position to continue fighting this.
Well, how does Penguin make it back to cover there? He got a bit greedy, trying to see how much more damage you could put into the Vivian, but does manage to get his way back towards safety. So Snappin have now maintained control, but that might have slipped as Penguin finally does get grabbed. Bones gets the trade onto Hero, so it's 1 for 1. But Sanguine happy with that trade. They've moved their tanks out to the front line, but Reincarnate in the back line drops down the Cataclysm, doesn't find much, but the knockup gets him the kill onto Steve. And his team has regained control. The Nando getting melted before he can even make his way back. And forced to use the ultimate just to survive in the backline, but he's got to be quick. Snapping up to 96%, 99. And the overtime finally triggered, so maybe this can be that little bit of a window that Sanguine needs to get back in, but all the kills are coming up snapping. And they find the first mid.
Bones and Stigma just kind of stepping up to the plate when they need to. They watched everyone else fall down. Penguin, let's just say, needs a little bit of a warm-up, right? Drogos isn't necessarily somebody you just hop into and play at the absolute best peak apex Drogos that you're going to see. It might take a little warm-up that comes through. But you had highlighted, they get rid of that Immortal as well, which slows down the Fernando. So Quick, not able to live up to his name, can't get anywhere near the midpoint there. And it leaves open a chance for Penguin to be able to find a good Dragon Punch. That Immortal not being around means that there's a guaranteed execution. This payload's moving pretty fast as it goes forward. Yeah. So as long as you hit anyone other than Terminus, it's a guaranteed stick for a kill, and I think this pressure is going to work. Plus this Worm Jet's working beautifully just to keep him hovering over the roofs. The point, or the damage that he's getting at, the poke damage that he's getting at here is just going to be immeasurable for the team. But they've hit that archway fence, and this is where things start to slow down.
Yeah, this is the toughest point. I thought that earlier kill that they got on to that Nando earlier would open things up a bit more, but it really didn't. This is the exact same choke point they were stalled at when they killed Quick that first time. But now Penguin's over the top, and Quick struggles again to stay standing. So that should be the high ground heading over towards Snappin', and they will indeed move out there. But they lost Reincarnated elsewhere on the map. The Midnight coming out as well. So Snappin's moment where they thought they had momentum has been taken from them by these ultimates from Sanguine on the other side. And that means Quick's right back to hold this same position again. They're having trouble, Gore, breaking through.
It's just difficult. I think Stigma maybe wants to be the one up on the high ground, has some good shots down here. It's just so hard to balance when you've got Drogos on the other side. You need him getting the pressure where he is up in the sky, and there's going to be a good overpower that finds a kill. That's at least going to start things off, and they've already found 2 quick kills in succession.
It's starting it off well, a double kill for Penguin. Bones got involved as well, and suddenly sounded like Snappin' might run away with this one. A conversion on the back of the cap, and already they're up 2-0.
And they maintain 3 of the 4 ults. They use that overpower to make sure they get it, and I think that's part of what it was, right? It's a slow push for them, because they wanted to save that ult a little bit longer. Woodknock wants to hold on to it going into this round, but good call from them to use that one. As much as it is a great round ult con, the only time on Stone Keep you have those kill thresholds is on the push or defense when you are inside the base. So now you can go into the mid-fight just the same way you did last time around. You don't necessarily need Cassie's ult either. I mean, the reveal is really nice, especially against a Midnight. But Poison doesn't have his, so Stigma doesn't have to worry about having his up either. So being able to balance it out, you've got 2 really good ones. If Reincarnated can maybe angle his a little better this time around, I expect these ults to be put to good use. This might be bad news bears for Sanguine already, starting down 2-0.
Yeah, this could be trouble. You saw Reincarnated already has the fully stacked cot, so this battle in Keep should favor Snappin', and it already does. Quick has struggled mightily on the Nando so far here in this map. There's that Cataclysm we were asking for. It absolutely shows up. Stigma getting the multi-frag as they've already pushed Sanguine out of the mid, and Penguin still has his ultimate, and boy is that a big one. The Dragon Punch potential to remove one of these tanks is huge, but Reincarnated might not even let that matter. He's in the backline shredding them before they can even get close to the point to contest. And now, able to find some big knockups and lock down even more. This is disgusting control.
I mean, yeah, this is just absolutely locking them in their base. Someone slips through over there, the Maeve, so she should be able to get an overtime touch, but even then, yeah, it's you know, pretty risky. You're running in a solo flank, not a lot of health on those to try and get an overtime touch. This is absolute control from Snappin right now. And to the point where I would say Penguin used his ult, not necessarily because it was a quick kill, but because he hadn't used it so far. And Drogo's, I mean, it's one that charges up so quickly. He's going to be able to have that by the time they hit the choke point as well. This is good pressure. Snappin are an unrelenting force right now, and Sanguine just don't know how to handle it.
And we thought that these shields would pose a bigger problem for Reincarnate, but not when the Cataclysms are this good. Bones gets the double, but that's off the back of the ROM, setting it up. There is the term coming back into the equation, so maybe not quite as big of a fight as it is, but taking that ultimate away this early, certainly big. We'll see if the term has that back up, because remember, this is 3-0. The defense has to be here for Sanguine, or this map is over just like that, and the Drogo's getting past the term, getting the permanent kill on the hero that time. And Snappin don't seem to be slowing down.
Look, now it might be an unfair advantage here. I see the fact that there is an eagle, a bald eagle specifically, skin here for Drogo's that's in there. You can't get more NA than that, trying to maybe stamp themselves as the champions through pure skinergy that's coming in. But Penguin right now has been the driving factor. And Penguin, I had mentioned this the last time we got to watch them during the regular season, but one of my favorites to watch as of late because he has been flexing out onto these Drogos. This is not the first time that we have seen him play this in the last few weeks. Same thing for the Willows that have come through. These blasters have been essential for Snappin', and right now, he's making a big difference. He's a huge distraction factor, plus a huge amount of damage.
Yeah, he and Reincarnated have felt like the difference makers to me so far. Woodnock and Stigma, though, want to throw their hats into the ring as Baller Steve is removed. They know where the Nando is, and he does not have the ultimate, so he will not be surviving. The Maeve gets one kill, enough time for the Terminus to make it back out, but Hero does not have the ultimate. That was stripped from earlier, and Snappin find the quickest 4-0 I can remember. That is easy on Stone Keep.
I mean, that is 9 minutes of gameplay, and most of it was just pure action. I mean, it was foot to throat. Snappin' know what they came into today wanting, and so far, at least, they start off on the right foot for it. And I will say, it's a little eerie. The last time these two teams played, it was a 3-0 for Snappin'. There were a couple of points that Sanguine were able to pick up, but it didn't go the way they wanted it to, and I was hoping that they'd go back, watch that footage, kind of study it up and come through, but I think there's something to be said about Snappin's flexibility. Not every team is going to run Drogos against you, and not every team that runs Drogos against you is going to look as good as Penguin there, so I think it's just going to be a difficult task to climb through this one.
And he did look good. A great game all around there from Snappin to start it off, but can they keep that momentum going? Maybe the desk has some ideas.
Well, Kresnik, you said the Drogos was going to be pretty critical in this one, and the Drogos was pretty critical and an absolute stomp in Snappin's favor. They made it look easy from top to bottom.
And he was even able to escape when they actually properly were countering him too, right? They rotate the Vivian to be on his level. He just runs away on that first mid. But I thought I was going to have all eyes on that Drogue, but really Reincarnated just dominated on that ROM. Even with a Genos on the other team, I felt like he was unstoppable with all that space he was making. And anytime they put that Nando or that Term in his way, hey, Woodnock was there to grab him right through their shields.
It made it look pretty easy doing it. I mean, Snappin looked absolutely fantastic in this one. You had all those counter picks for the ROM, as you mentioned. The Fernando pick that was a little bit surprising there for Sanguine clearly didn't work out too well. But when game one is that dominant, I feel like it's a little bit hard at times to be like, all right, let's go to game two now. You know, it's pretty damaging mentally, I think, to get blown out like that.
You got to find some way to blame the draft. Anything but your gameplay, right? Just say like, oh no, we had Nando and Term and Genos. We couldn't burst heal when we cleansed COD. All right, next draft, let's not do that again, right? You can't say, oh, we played bad, especially when, you know, you have to continue to succeed when this is when the pressure is really on here. I loved how they played this Cassie, by the way, into them. Having that burst damage, I think, as a DPS, as opposed to like a over time, like a Vic or a Tyra or Vivian, having the burst pair so well when you have the Khan or the ROM just quickly knocking down those shields. You have to burn it down before they have a chance to put him back up.
And that just did not happen in this one, not at all. So now we look at the post-game stats, 7-0 for the Corvus, 6-1-8 for Stigma on that Cassie. Hero struggled in this one, as did Quick. The front line combined 0, 15, and 8. Not going to get the job done very often whenever that's the call.
Yeah, I mean, every time we saw them get aggressive, we just saw Woodknock, I think, in their face. There's a reason Woodknock ended up with top assists, because he assisted in pretty much every kill on both of the tanks. He just would grab them. I think the only one he wasn't a part of was that double kill we got to see with Bones, cleaning up 2 on the back of that Entropic Breach, and Bones continues to kind of run away with it in the kill death department. He actually has the highest KD of any player in the entire PPC by over a whole number, a single digit. He's at 6, I believe. Second closest is 4.8. So he, as a player, statistically, is just leaps and bounds above all the other supports and quite a few of the DPSs, and it's showing here when things are on the line.
Something to keep an eye on as the set continues for sure. Can Bones stay pristine as he did in set number 1 or game number 1? Looking pretty likely if they can keep that going, as Jag Falls will be the next one. And Jag Falls is one where we've seen teams snowball pretty well before. Pickled Pepper just did it in the first set, and that was not indicative of how the rest of the set went. So Jaguar Falls has that type of potential.
Yeah, definitely a map where priorities shift, I would say, a little bit. I think they banned Makoa on the last map, but this is definitely a place you want to see him. And any character with the ability to lock down a choke point through spam or through shielding definitely becomes a premium here. Genos also will remain high priority because, hey, there's so many corners, there's so many choke points. If you can heal through walls, you're going to be a healer that gets prioritized over the ones that have to peek these choke points to actually do their job.
Makes sense. Genos definitely high priority. IO continues, I think, to be a champion to watch out for and see how they're going to actually perform whenever they are locked in, as Rom instantly banned away by Sanguine, a guy who has the spam to lock down one of those choke points pretty well.
Yeah, I am surprised they don't take it themselves, though. Quick is very comfortable on Rom. It's one of his main champions, I would say, that he likes to play. So surprised to see it go in the ban column instead, but not surprised to see the Sky there. Think about how it looked on the last set. It's definitely great on this map, the stealth, the ability to heal your teammates when they have to fight some of those choke points. So the rest of the bans end up looking exactly the same. Second pick just seems to be leaning in that direction, but Khan will be the first pick. He has the great execute ult. He has obviously the utility to knock down the shields that Snappin was able to utilize last game, and because of that, they're actually going to prioritize Barrick. He's the best point tank left, I think, that doesn't get countered as effectively by that Khan. Put the shield in the way from that overpower, and Barrick will be able to live on point longer than some of the other point tanks.
When you think of point tanks, normally I'm thinking Inara, but Barrick is the call here for Snappin, and they go with that Cassie once again. And when Stigma looked so good on it last game, I can certainly understand why they want to go back to it, as we see our first Bomb King of the Paladins World Championship here in North America. Didn't see him at all in set 1.
Yeah, some teams just don't have the priority. Also, both the teams in set 1 control their DPS primarily, so they're not really wanting to play the projectile characters, definitely more comfortable on the hit scan, so I think it would make sense to have that paired up with that. And pair it with a Term, I think that is solid here. You just throw the Siphon in the Bomb King's way. He literally can't lose a duel if you're pairing them together. You have to find someone to get rid of that Terminus or wait out his Siphon first. Grover could help them in that sense, right? Just get that constant healing. Maybe you can live long enough to actually have a chance to fight that BK.
Another first appearance here, this one by Ruckus for Snappin, another spam-oriented character that can really control those choke points pretty well. And Tyra is going to be the answer on the other side to some of this constant healing from the Grover.
Yeah, the fire will be, I think, pretty effective into these tanks, the high mobility, but might just be running it for Mercy Kill to survive through the Ruckus dive. That is kind of the champion he is. He runs in and trades his life to get his team some kind of advantage. But Sanguine have a comp that is just kind of counter to this dive, right? They can just play all on top of each other, Battle Shout to heal the whole team, Dama Gord to heal everybody, Shout to heal everybody. You can the Siphon also to peel for everyone. There's just so few ways to win that, and that's why Snappin are going this Willow instead. So if the dive isn't going to work, we'll just beat you through the spam war, drop that dead zone, drop that AoE damage, and hopefully we just poke you out before we have to make that dive happen.
But let me get this straight. No Genos,
right.
No IO, no Corvus.
No.
All three of the top supports, neither picked nor banned here at this one. That's crazy, right?
Yeah, I think maybe I would have preferred the Corvus over the Damba, but I think it really is just part of that counter dive strategy, right? They want that CC, they want the Dread Serpent so that when that Ruckus actually gets in, maybe they have some way to burn him down before he gets a Hexa off or gets those rockets all off.
Some supports being called off the bench here in game number 2 between Sanguine and Snapin. Let's see if Sanguine can bounce back.
Thank you on the desk there, Aggro and Kresnik. Sylph and Gore here as we move on to Jag Falls. And Gore, Stone keeping to Jag Falls. It's hard to ask for 2 more, I don't know, standard maps to start with.
Yeah.
I don't think you have a whole lot of excuses if you end up losing 2-0 to this, so Sanguine really do need to step up here.
It's definitely the moment to really stand your ground. Again, when you're in a best of 5, it's not impossible to get a reverse sweep, right? 3 maps in a row. We see it all the time. It's just so daunting to know that you are 1 map away, 1 slip up essentially from having things go against you. So you really want to stabilize here if you're Sanguine, make sure things go your way. This is one of Bomb King's best maps, and Poison's one of the best Bomb King players that we have in the league right now. So not surprising to see him go there, but again, it's Penguin that my eyes go to. This Willow is maybe going to be the biggest one to be a detriment to Sanguine unless they can find a good way to take care of her.
Well, he got it done on Drogo's last time, and he's not going to get it done at least at the start. Hero gets the opening pick, but pays for it when Bones gets the return frag. And Snappin's still up at 51%, so they're in control, but Poison looking to change that. He's made his way to the back, but cannot get away from Stigma's wrathful gaze. That is enough to shut down the BK, and Quick can't afford to turn the corner here. Woodknock doing exactly what you hope from your Ruckus. He's in the back line demounting. He's not even going to stop him. You got him off the mountain. He's waiting for the next one to show up, doing exactly what his job is. Stigma's waiting to keep this chain going as the rest of Sanguine are trying to find a way to move in and stop this point. It's already 99%. The overtime is low, and Hero never gets to do anything. Stigma provides the vision to the squad, and they get 2 more. Both tanks removed. Poison falls as well, and Snappin appear to be in complete control.
I mean, until that last moment, a lot of that fight felt at least like it was close, right? At least the same amount of people around, maybe a couple of kills that go in favor of Snappin'. But you watch that percentage, and it just goes from 0 to 100. Eventually, you get Sanguine getting 3% on the board. Not really a whole lot in comparison to the double-digit Snappin' put on. And so it's just kind of curious because they had no control, and that is where this Willow comes into it. Maybe she's not going to be able to go into the dark room and slaughter you the same way BK will, but she can do this. She can go up into the sky and fire hellfire from above. She can throw a dead zone onto a midpoint and just make it impossible for your tanks to stand there. She is going to be the difference maker.
Yeah, Faithlight's good, and Penguin putting it to work. This has been his set so far, hasn't it? The Drogo's back on Stone Keep, and now here on Jag Falls, getting it done with this Willow. And if you're Sanguine, you've got to find a way to get this strat to work. Clearly, they want to be stacked around this Damba healing, right, and see if that can work, but it just has not panned out so far. Now they're finally starting to push out a bit, but look how far the cart is already as Dread Serpent is used elsewhere on the map. That does control Stigma for the moment, but he makes his way back towards safer ground. And now, thanks to that ultimate, they know the Bomb King is in the back, and Poison, not much he can do there. He gets taken care of by Bones, and Sanguine feels like they're on their last leg already.
I mean, Stigma already had a great performance last map. Now he doesn't have to wait to use that ult just to counter Maeve. He can use it whenever they need vision, and so far it's been paying off in dividends, and now they're just slaughtering them.
They absolutely are. Last one standing is Steve, and not for long. Snapping up 2-0 here over Sanguine already, and that is 6 uncontested points in a row as well. And if you're Sanguine, you got to figure something out, because who's waiting for you in the lower bracket? It's Pickled Pepper. That's not easy. That's no easier, right?
No, in fact, I would, well, theoretically, numbers-wise, should be harder for them. Although Sanguine have been able to put up a little bit of a fight. I think in the last couple of matches against Yeezy PogChamp, one was a 3-0, one was a 3-1. What's happened here? They're on to something completely different. They are looking like a team that is here to win the whole thing. They are not playing around. They are not holding back. They're not even giving a small opening to Sanguine. And that's what's insane is normally you're looking at these, and yeah, you should expect a couple of points here, but up 6-0 so far, unless Gogurt is able to do something, or Poison here on the side of Sanguine, we might go ahead and start talking about them in the lower bracket. They still have a chance to turn around thanks to the comeback mechanic here. But no big ults available other than Overpower. Not a lot to fight with.
Woodknock, though, with great positioning, has found Gogurt. They needed something like that to try and keep this momentum going, and so far it's working. Hero dropped as well. And if you're Sanguine, you've got to be thinking, how do we find an option? Hexafire, point blank. Say goodbye to Quick. They get rid of Poison as well. And Gore Miser, this is about as one-sided as you might see. As you said, the fast cap is there, so Sanguine Only need a little bit of control, but are they even going to find that? Stigma has pushed up, as has the Ruckus. They've got them zoned out.
What you are seeing here is why it was so important for off-tanks for, I would argue now, 3 years to have a Ruckus in their back pocket, as well as the fact that he was a top pick, top ban in Europe for the longest time in this last half of the year. Just so controlling, so oppressive. I mean, Woodnock literally just went hello backline, jumped back there and killed everyone in his vision. Still alive, still distracting people, and still just such a nuisance. And the only person that really counters him incredibly well is on his team. Cassie is playing for him and is on a 19 streak on this side. I mean, nothing lower than a 13 streak on Snappin' right now. This payload's moving, even with these archways, even with that overpower, not even getting the kill. I don't know if Sanguine can do it.
I'm not so sure either. They do get at least one return kill. They took care of the Willow, but everything else is going Snappin's way right now, and the line of sight is there for Stigma. Not quite enough damage to get rid of that Bomb King, but knows he has him low, knows he has him pinned down, so the rest of the team can move up. Reincarnated still has Dome Shield. I mean, they've got Whirlwind in the back pocket as well. Some really key ultimates to get this cart pushed in are available. Just depends on when they're ready to let those ultimates drop, when they're ready to use them, as they're up 3-0 and right on the precipice of converting. Poison has already fallen. Now they're moving in to see if they can take care of the term as well, and sure they can. Hero ends up dropping and Snapping now with 8 unanswered. Sanguine, they gotta get to the drawing room, to the lab. They gotta figure something out here, Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, they need, like, timeouts, go pause, get a drink, like, wash your hair, splash some cold water on your face, something. Like, you just got to restart the day at this point. Go to sleep for an hour, come back in. I don't know. This is, I mean, just catastrophically different. The way the first set went was how this set was supposed to go. This was supposed to be the first set. Like, Yeezy PogChamp were supposed to get 3-0'd instead of winning. I don't know. The world is topsy-turvy here in NA.
It absolutely is. Hard to make sense of it here in the moment, so maybe we get over to the desk, let them handle it.
So, game 1, Snappin' obliterate Sanguine. And then game 2, we're ready for a close set. That's what we saw in the first set today, Kresnik, that was not supposed to be close. So, surely Sanguine would bounce back and look pretty good, but it's more of the same, it turns out, here in game number 2. Snappin' just look like they're on a different level than Sanguine currently.
Yeah, I think I would agree, and I think it's also partially the way that they're playing around each other. I think just the little things of how they're peeling for each other, it's not really there for Sanguine, but it's there for Snappin', and we literally got to see it on camera, right? For start of the second mid. They dive Gogurt, who's on Burn Monster, and not Mercy Kill for whatever reason. We watch Hero literally leave. He could have just turned around and siphoned on him and saved his life, but Hero just said, no, I can go fight on point right now, and kind of left Gogurt to dry. Cut to when they're about to convert the payload, when they get an overpower, Woodnock dives into the enemy backline just to face tank the overpower and stop Penguin from getting thrown off the map. That's the difference here. They're going out of their way to save each other from these things that are guaranteed to be kills on the side of Snappin', and Sanguine are kind of trying to play their own game.
Really good team play so far from Snappin', and you see the difference that kind of thing can make. Take a look at the post-game stats. 2 deaths in total for Snappin'. Penguin with both. I'm sure his team is very angry with him for such a poor performance on the Willow, but everybody else looking nice and clean. You mentioned Bones' KDA looking awfully good here, and this one, of course, on the back of another fantastic win. You mentioned Woodnock. I loved watching his perspective and his patience at the beginning of that second point fight and how well he was able to get into the back line and just insta-kill Gogurt in particular, but really just open up the whole map there for Snappin'.
Mm-hmm. That's what a good Ruckus can do on a map like this, I think. When you can dive and isolate someone and take them down, that's what Ruckus does, right? He kind of wins those forced 1v1s, or at the very least makes you turn around for long enough to have to deal with you. And if they want to keep playing Ruckus, this is a map to do it. Sanguine clearly must not be uncomfortable with it, because Sanguine are picking a map where Woodnock can kind of just run it down into him again, play that high ground above him, and collapse whenever his team is ready.
Splitstone Quarry is the call. I thought of this map whenever you were talking about the map bans and how a lot of these bans were focused on sniper maps, and Splitstone Quarry is one of those maps that we always talk about snipers on, and it was left open, and now Sanguine has selected it. What does that tell you? That both of these teams seem to want to ban some maps that were a little bit more sniper heavy, and now we're going to one anyways?
Some teams in some regions have kind of leaned away from it just because if you draft a lot of verticality, if you just draft some super mobile flanks, the snipers kind of end up being a liability as the game goes on, right? If you end up with like a Maven and Androxus and you just go on their high ground, sniper, the tanks won't be peeking him and he'll just be under so much pressure the whole time. Plus, long term, you win, you shoot down, it's significantly harder for them to play against you. And clearly Eevee, that's verticality, that's mobility. Sanguine, they don't want to play against that. That's where this map's going.
Makes sense to me, and there's the Androxus that you mentioned is another key point in that. We saw the Androxus be critical for Yeezy PogChamp in their victory here on Splitstone Quarry, so no surprise in my mind to see that banned away here by Snappin'. But that does leave open a lot of those priority picks again. Khan still open, of course. Makoa still open, and Makoa is going to be where Sanguine decide to go to with their first pick.
Yeah, when you can put that half shell in the way of any choke points, I think pretty much Sanguine have said, all right, well, we win Quarry now. We win the inside area next to point. You can't really fight us. I think Snappin' now really have to draft into that verticality so they can play above and shoot down at them because the doors are going to be hard to fight, but they need someone to contest it, and that someone will be this Khan. He's going to have to put himself between Makoa and his team's backline because otherwise they're going to be kind of free to farm.
Man, I'm so glad that I'm back in the actual reality that I'm normally in, because last game I could have sworn that Genos and Io and Corvus weren't picked or banned, and something was wrong with the universe. Now we're back, and Genos is top 2'd here by Snappin'. Barrack is going to be the call, so lots of point presence already by Sanguine, and they're going to back it up with some actual damage coming from Cassie.
Yeah, the Cassie clearly worked great for Snappin' the last 2 games, so at least take it for yourselves here. And they have I do like the shielding kind of style they have. I like pairing Barrack and Makoa because if you want to get Wrecker to deal with that Barrack, then you're inadvertently also giving Makoa more cooldown reset by shooting his shield with more damage as it goes. But seeing that Cassie get picked up, they're just going to take that Kinessa for themselves. They will lean on that sniper. That is one of Stigma's specialties. And then they actually pick up the Xin to lose out on a little bit of the verticality that I think you need to succeed on this map.
Yeah, this is not the Maeve or the Androxus or the Eevee that you were talking about. This is the Xin, who maybe can get in there and get his hands dirty in that quarry, but with Makoa and Barrack having such great shielding, I don't know how effective he can really be in that area either.
Yeah, they actually end up with Io too, so double backline here. Sanguine is just going to go inside, plop down a half shell, put both their DPS in there, and just poke out. Only throw Luna on the point as a sacrificial lamb, as it might be, to contest. So I expect a very slow start to this game once they actually get in there, because neither team's really going to be able to push in. Snappin's going to be waiting for Stigma to do something, and Sanguine are going to be waiting for their cap time to climb up 6-10% at a time.
Going to be a hard-fought one here on Splitstone Quarry as back to the Ruckus goes Snappin'. A little bit more mobility, but not necessarily verticality in that pick. Do you think that the Kinessa and the rest of Snappin' are going to be able to close out the 3-0 here, Kresnik?
With this Ruckus pick, I think so. He does have a little bit of that verticality with his aerial assault talent with those vertical dashes, so he can play in that same position that the flanker would be instead. Now, instead of having the off-tank to contest them, they have a Xin instead. He'll use his kind of cooldowns to reset and poke out from the backside, while Ruckus is the one spamming from above instead. So I think Snappin' ended up with a pretty flexible draft, and if Sanguine try to play outside, they have Stigma and Kinessa to deal with, and that is never a happy thing to see.
Sanguine feels like they're at the base of Everest right now with how well Snappin' has played. Better start climbing here on Splitstone Quarry.
Hopefully they brought their gear, because it is a steep one. They got to win them all from here out if they want to win, and so far they haven't even won a single point. Gore, you heard Kresnik talk about how this might be a slower pace when dealing with the Makoa and the Barrack and potentially even the Io. Is that how you see this one going, or could Snappin' find a way to break through?
I think there's a little bit of area where maybe they find the kill onto Io early on, and that just really pulls out all of the control away from Sanguine. But I think their composition is good at slow rolls, which we saw it at the beginning of the second round on Jag Falls. We'll see it again here. Woodknock, he's good at the slow roll, right? Just patience in the backline, waiting to be the flank. I mean, we've seen Bucks do this on this map several times, so it's not surprising to see him take that style of play here instead for the Ruckus.
Khan already low, though, for snapping and has some damage behind him, but it's Hero who falls first. Stigma gets the snipe, and now the roll in from Poison gets punished as well. I thought Sanguine were going to play this slow, but they get aggressive and snapping, handle it perfectly, and what a hook. But unfortunately, all you've done is pull in the pain. Stigma with 3 in the opening battle, and we already know which sniper came to play.
I mean, just out of nowhere, right? You're looking at Khan is incredibly low, Genos gets incredibly low, finally Poison gets some pressure out there onto Stigma to get rid of the Kinessa, but, I mean, just in the blink of an eye, it feels like Sanguine all collapse. They get a little too aggressive, maybe too fast there, getting a little overzealous. Now, they're able to buy themselves that time. 87% is stalled for Snappin', so they get to move in and take some of that pressure back, but all this time, Kinessa's just going to respawn. That makes it dangerous to be on the objective.
Yeah, here's the thing. You guys had a little bit of breathing room when Stigma wasn't here, but my man is on the way back, and there will be problems. Gogurt, though, showing that his scope just as accurate as he finds some decent damage. Poison, together with Gogurt, get that kill just now onto Reincarnated, but Penguin has made his way to the backline and gotten rid of Poison. Stigma gets the snipe, and just like that, Sanguine are able to get the first cap. That's huge for them to be able to keep a little bit of momentum on their side.
I mean, just being able to go forward, like you said, a little bit of momentum. Not a whole lot. They all get wiped right after they grab that one. But it's up to Hero. I want to say credits to him. I think between him, Makoa, plus this IO, you should have point presence. I mean, above and beyond what Snappin' are providing. They have Khan, realistically, who's going to be standing on the objective most. Maybe you can throw Woodknock in there a little bit on this Ruckus, but not necessarily the go-to of your point tanks is Ruckus. So, you know, maybe slowing it down there. But honestly, Snappin', to me, that favors some of the old styles we used to see, not just on this map, but very similar to Ice Mines, where you're not maybe fighting to win point number 1 as much as you are to defend. And then maybe you're not winning round 2, but you're defending, right? You continue holding on to points as you go forward. Maybe the economy will shift out of your favor, but as long as you can either make it to 3-3 and win that fight, or start picking it up around round 2 or round 3, then you're not really that stressed out. It doesn't seem like they're sweating about it.
Well, as you guess, the defense certainly strong from them. And I think, Gore, they showed some strength in that mid-fight, too. They just had a little bit of trouble with that last bit of retake, but the kills were certainly going their way as Reincarnated lands the ult, because of course he does, and Hero is food for the rest of the squad, though they still have not completed the kill. They finally get it there thanks to Bones. Reincarnated showing how strong that shout is, but Gore, I think that you've got the right read on this one. Eventually, I think Snapper are going to be able to start converting those mids, and Sanguine are then in some real trouble.
I mean, that one was very close, a really good kill that comes down from Cassie onto Stigma during the midpoint, right? How often are you going to get to see those? It's not every day, not even every round, that you get to see Cassie take on a Kinessa and win that matchup. I think good for Poison, and we know that this is going to be a solid and consistent Cassie. It's just how often do you get to find that true trade in your favor when you know that scope is going to be coming through? A headshot is almost inevitable from this Kinessa that is going to cause a lot of trouble for you in terms of the health bar and where it sits. So yeah, you're able to get some of these fights. You're a really good counter matchup into the Ruckus. You have that consistency factor to always count in. How much are you going to be able to stop them at 90% in the future rounds? Right now, I mean, you were barely able to get back to this payload with 15 seconds.
Yeah, the offense started in earnest with 10 seconds left in the round, right? And that should be enough for Snappa to put this to bed. Quick trying to keep the battle going, seeing what resources he can force, but it looks like the answer is none. Everyone goes down. Snappin' have 4 ultimates. The 5th is on the way. And they're in a great spot looking towards this next mid. It'll be 1-1. A little bit more credits go for getting the mid, right? But still, Snappin' should be able to compete.
They'll be able to afford maybe an extra tier on an item or maybe a throwaway that will be either a start of a second, maybe depending on their performance, start of a third. But Gogurt, 0-5 right there. And you can see kind of having to spread the credits thin. Stigma, definitely the sniper that's making the bigger difference as of right now. We've seen a lot of damage coming through from the Strix, but not a lot of that converting to kills for him specifically. And it goes back to what Kresnik had said about Sanguine last game, I think is just as true right now, which is that you look at Snappin' and I'm seeing a team play as a unit. Stigma will get some damage, Woodknock will confirm it, or Penguin will confirm it, or vice versa, right? In Sanguine, it kind of feels like it's the Poison and Gogurt show, and if they don't show up for themselves, and they don't show up for anybody, we'll have to see them kind of work a little more cohesive this round, because they really need this game to go in their favor.
Sanguine open up by dropping down the ult, just to gain some information, and it looks like it's worked so far, but Stigma wins the duel out right up against Gogurt. Sure, he adds a little bit of help from Luminary there from Bones, but that is a huge first pick. But now, Reincarnate in some trouble, but Woodnock's able to move back towards Poison and get that kill. Steve drops elsewhere. Quick eventually takes care of Bones, but it costs him his life to get it done. But Gore, Sanguine got 69% in all of that time. Can Snap and have enough control to overcome that huge lead?
It's going to be difficult. I think at this point they got a very good stagger. That Barrack just now respawning, so they know they have a few more seconds before the main point tank for Sanguine is going to be able to take place. Luna can do a lot, but not everything, and this is just such a good flank from Woodnock. It's only going to get one kill, but that's enough.
How does he do it? How does Woodnock walk calmly into the back line time after time? At a certain point, Sanguine have got to be ready. Hexafire deletes one and forces the retreat from others, and now 99% at Snappin' are right back in it. Gore, you said maybe it wouldn't come until the third, but it looks like Snappin' are able to do things a little bit ahead of schedule, and they're already ready to win mids.
They had an accelerated plan in mind when they were coming into this game. They were like, all right, you know what, like, yeah, but it's a little unfortunate round one. And even still, it was very close, but it goes back to what I was saying. How often do you get to rely on this? I say this more often with triple kills and double kills or quadra kills when they come through, which is, that was a really sick round for you. Can you do it again? Like, and it's not necessarily even trying to be pessimistic. It's just, if your team wins off one stellar thing, what can you do it a second time for them? Right now, unfortunately, Poison, I mean, he gets a kill there, but can you do it again? Because your team really needs this Cassie to start stepping up. There's a good kill there onto the Kinessa, and that should buy him some time.
Stigma's just good, dude. I don't have any analysis. I don't understand how he's doing it for. My poor man on the other side is just getting one-tapped. It's absolutely tough. Now, the good news is you covered. Sanguine got some other important picks, so even though Stigma won the initial sniper trade, it didn't end up being an opportunity for Snappin' to push. So Sanguine are now going to get their feet set, dug in on this defense, and see what they can do to deny. They're not quite in the same position you would be for the mid, but just behind that and still with plenty of high ground to work with. And Hero trying to keep tabs on Woodnock. That guy has been a nuisance, and you absolutely need to know where he is.
An absolute menace to them. I mean, it's so difficult to lock him down. He's got so much mobility, both vertical and not, that he can dash around here. And so he's able to get into the backline. I mean, we've seen countless times that Hexafire, not up right now, that's been the big difference maker. If he can charge it up in the next few seconds, guaranteed 40%, it's a lot to ask for, even with something like a morale boost. And so you would need to wait. It all depends on the ult usage. They're throwing out one on the side of Snap, and that, to me, indicates they at least want to get back to this payload and get things going again.
Penguin does get a critical kill here onto Quick, so now the Barrack. Hero is holding this ground for now. They still have quite a few ultimates. Dome Shield is still here, so perhaps if Sanguine feel the need, they could hold some ground. But Gogurt's got to be careful. He's lost 3 duels to Stigma, I believe, already, though Stigma has died right afterwards almost every time. So it looks like he's doing his job. But this card has now rounded this final corner. Gore, Penguin gets poisoned, but Hero gets Stigma. That's such a big kill for Hero to get rid of that Kinessa on the other side. But Penguin is into the back line, not quite ready for the flank. He's been sought out there by Quick, so instead he looks for Gogurt, who does manage to make it back into the base and heal up.
And this is just a good lockdown, right? You're keeping everyone distracted as the flank. They're locked outside their base, but they still have high ground. And unfortunately, your team just isn't getting the burn they need. Snappin', it's a little slow, but ults are coming back. I mean, they got the through time and space back up. They've got a Hexafire if they want to. Doesn't seem like they do. They could have maybe thrown everything at the wall to see what sticks. As it is, they managed to slow that one down on the side of Sanguine. But the biggest thing is, one, more Hexafires like this, please. I just like watching them. But also, I mean, if you're Snappin', you get all of your ults back going into this. I mean, look, you're down 8% there for Bones, 30% for Penguin. He's going to take a little bit longer to get online. That might be a blessing in disguise, just having a little bit of a staggered ult coming forward. You don't waste them all at the very beginning. Or Sanguine, they have all 5. They're all really good. I mean, don't get me wrong. An IO on this can absolutely demolish people. I'm thinking throw them into the fidget spinner of death itself right on the side of the map. Could be a really solid play. Doesn't happen often, but you never know. I don't know. Sanguine are still just as much in this, but things are definitely on a slippery slope.
I wonder if this is going to come down to a final mid-fight, Gore. Neither team has successfully converted as Reincarnated is met. It looks like Sanguine are going to push all the way through Quarry this time and challenge, but Bones is there with the ultimate, and it flattens Poison. What a call, and what a punish. Baller Steve drops as well, and soon to be behind them will be the Makoa. Onto the point goes this Ruckus. He takes care of Hero. They pay for it with Stigma again, but a worthwhile trade as they will be staggering out quick. Here, it seems to me, is the call. Still have not quite completed it, but he'll be dying shortly. There it is. And that means now Snappin should have some decent control around this mid, but no one stepped on it and was capping until now.
Yeah, they still have 3 seconds, though, till Makoa spawns back, so a long time that Turtle's not going to be available. And the only ults now for Sanguine are the Dome Shield and that Ancient Rage, both impactful. Maybe not the game changers you need them to be, especially if Hero's just going to get burned down before he can drop it. That means they're just missing one of their biggest ults in terms of taking back the mid.
How do you feel about Spike there, Gore? As it takes care of Hero, and Hexafire is the answer. It's not the kill, but that Makoa had to run away with his tail between his legs. Reincarnated gets back towards safety, 66-33, and neither team feeling comfortable as Reincarnated lands another one onto Gogurt. It has not been his day. Reincarnated hitting everything, and now they can move back out onto the point in earnest. They want the Makoa low. They already know exactly where Hero is as well as he gets hit by the Commander's grab. Confident position now from Snap, but as they start to move out into the mid.
And well grabbed to be able to throw him outside of the shield. That half shell doing everything it can in its power, but it's not the same as a dome shield in terms of survivability. They still have the tank advantage, so they should be able to dance on this point a little bit longer. But it's 99-57 right now. Definitely in favor of Snappin. They're charging up. I see 1-2 ults about to come up for them. If Snappin can get a really good Genos shot, then this might just end there.
Woodnock has made his way around to the back, but Reincarnated is low. He managed to survive, though, with good healing. Stigma gets rid of Hero. That is one of the tanks for Sanguine already down, and right behind him is Quick. So with the tanks removed, Snappin should have the mid control and maybe even a couple of kills onto the squishies on the back. Steve does take care of Penguin. That's something to celebrate, but I don't know if his teammates will get out with their lives. Poison has the roll. Commander's grab, though, hits the wall. And I think that might be enough for Poison to make it out of there, though. It seems like he almost casually turns around and hits Gogurt, but a big ultimate there from Baller Steve gets the return.
I mean, just coming through your consolation prize, you miss the Commander's grab around the wall, you turn, get a clean kill onto Gogurt, you get wiped, you eat an ult for it going into the drill, and then even still your team wipes the floor with Sanguine, gets the payload move, and keeps it going forward. I mean, this has been much better fought from Sanguine all around than those first two games because they actually have some points on the board. But unfortunately for them, it doesn't seem like that's going to make that big of a difference. So you had highlighted it, though. No one's converted just yet. This is making a lot more progress this time around. But with a kill there onto Woodnock, maybe one more just to solidify some good faith on the side of Sanguine, then this will stall out one more time, and we're going to be looking towards them trying to spend the next minute and a half at another long defense. If they go 3-3, as long as they can maintain those ults coming into it, and they don't have to spend them for a defense here against Snap and maybe trying to go for a conversion, then they will be in a much better position to try and just outright win this map.
Nice defense here from Sanguine, though. As they get a good stagger kill on the Reincarnated to start chewing into some of this clock. This is where we've seen these teams struggle, finding a way past this choke point itself. What's been helpful for them is Woodnock's ability to get to the back line, but I don't know if he'll be able to do that quite as successfully from this position. But Stigma continues to come up big. A kill onto Poison might be the opening they need. Gogurt has stealthed his way to the back line, but will he be able to find a target from here? Bones, I think, has identified where he is, but it's Woodnock who drops up there to Hero. A pretty big kill in response to the one that Stigma got, but the cart is still rolling all the same. Reincarnated takes care of Quick. Stigma right back gets rid of Gogurt. He's won those duels every time, and Snap and still have a chance to make a little bit of progress.
Once they get that touch, it's a little, I don't know, just shaky to me. Ults are coming online. Everything except that Headhunter available for Snap, and a good Hexafire here could end it all, and Woodnock has been providing nothing but some maximum efficiency plays. I'm worried about that Ruckus being able to get into the backline. I think that's somewhere Sanguine have to pay attention. They've got really good ults for a defense, definitely in terms of control. They might have to use them here. They go into overtime. This is the chance for Snappin to try and seal the deal and maybe just win this one 4-2.
Let's find out. Do you dare challenge Makoa? Will the last one standing win? But not if Iro has already been removed. Penguin starts the fight off on a great note, but it costs him his life to do so. So let's see if Woodnock can find the trade. He can't. Poison remains elusive. Poison remains an assassin as he takes care of 2. But Bones is still standing. He makes Poison pay. But Sanguine get the defense. They couldn't keep people on the cart, and Gilgert gets a couple kills towards the end. So it does come down to one final mid-fight, but Gore, Snappin have won the last 2.
I mean, not only winning the last 2, but I think they maintain control of some of their bigger ultimates. Headhunter coming up. Look, Stigma's 22, 8, and 15. I don't normally get to describe Headhunter as a game-changing ultimate because it is so dependent on the player, but with a slash line like that, I think we can go ahead and call it a game-changing ult that can come through for Stigma. They keep their Hexafire, and they have an Overpower. All of those very quick, easy, single-target kills at a minimum, sometimes maybe even 2 people, at least for Woodnock, maybe Stigma as well, if they can find the right shots. And you've got some good ones still on the side of Sanguine, but having used that Ancient Rage right at the very end, it puts Quick into a very difficult position. He doesn't have the same staying power that the Makoa has had at the beginning of the last couple of rounds, and they've lost even with that staying power.
Yeah, undoubtedly, their biggest ult here is going to be the Dome Shield, but Woodnock has already gotten rid of Baller Steve. I believe the Hexafire got that done in the back line. And so Snap and start this fight with mid control, but can Reincarnated hold it? They've needed to kind of take the mid, give it up Gorn, and then come back in, relying on this Khan as their point tank. So we'll see if that'll be the same strategy this time around. Woodnock dashing forward, but Stigma finally falls to Gogurt. That could be the opening that Sanguine needed to get back into this. Battle Shout keeps him alive, but the hook pulls him back into the line of fire, and Reincarnated will drop to Poison's hands. That means Sanguine are back in control and just need to keep snapping at bay. They still have the Dome Shield.
You had mentioned it, though. They like the retake. It's 57 to 69. They're not too far behind in terms of percentage, but they're missing a lot of those key ultimates that I would give as retake ability. They're going to have to go in for overtime touches, and this is always the awkward aggressing team, but he's going into the back line here for Woodnock, looking for a kill, and they're going to be able to find 2.
What? That's so confident. What a call. They don't go towards the mid. They go for the flank, and it absolutely works. Reincarnated gets 2. Stigma, Woodnock get the others, and that should be enough for Snappin to maintain their mid control. And this zone will be potent. Woodnock right in their faces, not letting the touch come through. 96, 99, and Snappin find the 3-0 win. They're gonna be moving on.
I mean, just incredible. I think Sanguine made really good adjustments into that last game, and unfortunately for them, it still didn't matter. I never want to see it like that when it comes through, but Snappin just played above and beyond, I think, what was expected. Those first 2 games were just crushing them into dust, and the last one was sweeping up what was left afterward. They were still able to provide a little bit of a fight. But Sanguine, I mean, they got to go back to the drawing board and work on it because they have a tough opponent now that they've been knocked out of the lower bracket.
Yeah, things might somehow get even harder for them in the lower bracket, huh? You don't want to think about that. Pickled Pepper will be their eventual opponent. But before that, we'll get it back to the desk, have them break it down.
Much better from Sanguine, signs of life, but ultimately Snappin slams the door and completes the 3-0 victory. Gore, I got a feel for the backline here of Sanguine. I mean, Gogurt and Kresnik, Poison and Gogurt and everybody else are going to be looking behind them all night because they're going to think that Woodnock's right behind him again. I mean, he was consistently, somehow, he's a giant mech. I mean, I know Ruckus himself, he's small, but he's piloting this giant thing, and he's getting straight behind them every single fight, it felt like.
They just don't have the ability to look at every single choke. You can't look everywhere for him, and when you are, he's going to come right in front of you. That's what happened in that last fight. Literally, he mounted straight through Quarry, looked Baller Steve, saw the white in Baller Steve's eyes, and used the Hexafire point blank with him. How do you answer that? You literally can't. And then you run away from him, and then there's Stigma just waiting for you, looking just so dominant on this Ganessa. I felt like Gogurt, he was doing good damage, but the kills were the ones that were just all going Stigma's way.
Yeah, Stigma was able to win those sniper duels really, really consistently, and so often on maps like this, that is the difference maker for you. A couple of really good defenses by Sanguine, including that final one that it looked like Snappin might be able to convert. They were pushing heavily using ultimates, and still Sanguine was able to hold the door, but at the end of the day, 99% is not quite enough. Snappin able to get the victory. But for Sanguine, in a day that's going to be long for you almost no matter what, in a day where you now have to go down into the losers, getting some momentum going and not just getting, 12-0'd is, I think, somewhat noteworthy. Getting some sort of momentum on your side here with a close loss.
Yeah, maybe figuring out the what maps they're going to succeed on a little bit more, and hopefully they can look at Pickled Pepper for their sake and make what they want to do work. But they just looked figured out a little bit by Snap, and even as the game went on, by the end, Sang were able to hold on the defense, but those mids really just continuously felt Snappins. Anytime something would go wrong, maybe, it looks like Sang would have the edge, suddenly Woodknock's in the back line, or Stigma goes on a double kill. It's just all set up almost for the rest of the team to roll over.
Man, it really, really close there in the last one, but ultimately it is 6 maps in a row for Snappin over Sanguine, as they had beaten them 3-0 the last time they played, now 3-0 once again up against them here today. And bad news, if you're a Sanguine fan, you get to run into a very upset Pickled Pepper team down in the losers bracket, a 14-1 team during the regular season. Now, having been handed a loss by Yeezy PogChamp, I'm sure going to be coming back and looking pretty motivated, to say the least, here in the next one.
Yeah, Pickled Pepper, I mean, they're not used to losing, but after the loss they did get dealt by Snappin, a couple weeks ago, they recovered fine. So for their sake, they're hoping that they recover just as well here, right? We know they can take an L, but we'll see if it's able to recover that quickly, right? They had a whole couple weeks, I think, last time since their last loss, and now they have to go rapid fire right into it, and we'll see how their mental holds up.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. How mentally strong is this Pickled Pepper team? Make sure you stick around. You'll be able to find out right on the other side of this break.